me, twin. We gonna be reacting to how humans got high in every time period. Twin, you can't tell me this not gonna be a good video. You feel me? And in honor of this, we gotta hit the cart. You feel me? We finna get straight into it though. Hold on, folks.
Hold on to your heads, folks.
Alright, folks. I can't skip the ad. Like, y'all weird as fuck. Damn, twin. Oof, my head is.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
Paddling lately, so I'm trying to be a good boy. With that being said, I've only really discussed chemicals people are taking in the modern day, but human consumption of obscure chemicals far predates even history itself. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the favorite concoctions of humans in every time period, and how they use them to get high, starting in the Stone Age. The Stone Age is one of the most interesting and mysterious time periods for substance consumption. Interesting because this is where it all started, and mysterious because of how unknown it really is. We have a rough idea of what exact plants were preferred during this time period, but we don't exactly know when they were first used or how often they were used at all. Some suggest that ancient humans dating back to our ape-like ancestors were using specific plants regularly, although there's rather limited archaeological evidence to support that. And others believe that the recreational consumption didn't begin until much later in human history, like roughly 10,000 years ago, which there is slightly more evidence for. But here's the thing, just because the evidence we have available to us shows that the earliest recorded consumption began around 8100 BC, it doesn't necessarily mean that's where it actually began. That's just all we have proof of. And unlike pottery, stones, or other artifacts, these organic compounds don't preserve well. With that being said, I know you guys come to trust me, bro, for only the most factual, historically accurate, nothing but the truth type content. No creative liberties or stretching of any truths. We're all facts here. So with that being said, we're going to focus on the consumption after 10,000 BC, where the invention of farming, herding, and civilization likely facilitated the use of these compounds. Or I should really just say plants. At this point in time, they're just plants. They're just plants. But if you did want to speculate about early use, feel free to drop a comment. I'd love to open that conversation. Okay, so now that we have a framework for the timeline, what were these people in the Stone Age, or at least from 10,000 BC and beyond, getting up to? What were they lighting up? What were they chooching on? What were they fiending for? Well, I'll tell you. For starters, cannabis seeds appeared in archaeological digs dating back as far as 8100 BC.
Cannabis seeds.
Now, does that just mean that's when it was used?
That
it's hard to tell because
THC.
the evidence doesn't suggest that, although it is possible. What we do know, however, is that in China, there was strong evidence for ritualistic use of cannabis by 500 BC.
So they were smoking that weed first, twin. That weed first. Look, that weed was all they had.
Not only consumption, but also production of in the Stone Age is alcohol, specifically beer. By 10,000 BC, the Natufians have mastered the process of making beer. And although
there was some drunks too, so there was some potheads and some drunks. Okay.
Beer, the resemblance was there.
I get jiggy with that.
Years ago, had a rather low alcohol content of only 2 to 4%, and often contained additives such as fruit or honey, and most oddly, varied in consistency, from a clear liquid to a soupy mixture with floating solids and even pastes. Just imagine that. Beer soup with honey and fruit. Interesting. Researchers also suggest that there's a possibility that these people had also domesticated cereals, no, not the breakfast food, the actual grain category, for the specific purpose of brewing beer with them, instead of eating them. As strange as this early beer sounded, it actually served a dual purpose. Not only was it likely enjoyable for the people consuming it, but it also was a great alternative to water, as the alcohol in this soupy mess killed harmful bacteria that would have otherwise made these people sick. And this is going to be a trend throughout all of history.
Well, at least the alcohol was beneficial.
Also drinking alcohol to avoid dirty water. So while people in the Middle East were making beer, what was going on in North America? Well, actually a lot of things. Some of the primary and favored plants during the Stone Age were tobacco and coca. These were of course discovered and used by indigenous Americans.
So tobacco and cocaine. All right,
not only like their stimulants, but also
and this was in North America. I think the other one was in Asia.
The available natural selection of psychedelics include peyote, morning glory, datura, salvia, ayahuasca, and over 20 different species of magic mushrooms. To me, it's no wonder
magic mushrooms, shrooms. I would have tried shrooms so bad, twin.
Come back with a basket full of 20 different types of psychedelics.
I know somebody that's selling, but that nigga be playing on God.
Had when it came to tobacco and some of these hallucinogens was nasal administration. Specifically, inhaling snorting tobacco through your nose, which I could only
So
assume
y'all
must
was
have hurt,
snorting tobacco. All right.
to them it was enjoyable. They must know something we don't. One interesting piece of history is when the Spanish conquistadors visited the Mayan people, they were horrified by the Mayans' drug trips and saw it as the devil's work. Which, if you know anything about Mayan history, I don't fully blame them for that, considering some of their traditions. For example, human sacrifices, skull towers, slaves made into skin suits, stuff like that.
Yeah,
doesn't strike me
I
as
don't agree
angelic,
with y'all.
per se. But however you look at it, psychedelics were a major part of development and tradition for indigenous American people. The reason why people would use these plants varies for most of the same reasons that people do even in this day. People are looking to either ease pain, experience a pleasant sensation, connect with a higher power, gods or lost loved ones, or simply provide them more energy to hunt, work, and endure Stone Age life.
Right.
One popular
Right.
Stone Age
People
plant
just
that
get
was
high
used to
just to
serve
get high, you know
all
what I'm
of these
saying?
purposes
Just feel the
was the
feeling.
coca leaf. The coca leaf was readily available and was easily consumed, primarily being mixed with lime and being chewed until they had a stimulant effect. At that point, they would spit out the leaves and do it all over again, with some people
Okay.
chewing the stuff all day long. Although the exact origins
Okay,
of
that just seemed
specific
nasty.
usage isn't known, it is confirmed that some of the earliest traditions for mind-altering chemicals date back all the way to at least 10,000 BC, and some
Okay.
fan favorites include tobacco, coca leaves, and a
Coca
bundle
leaves
of psychedelics.
And
And you
a
can't
bundle of
forget beer
psychedelics, a
the
bundle
Bronze Age.
of
The Bronze
shrooms.
Age is really exciting because we have a lot more facts and a much larger variety of substances to cover. The plants we
Okay.
discovered in the Stone Age are still around, but we now have some new discoveries as well. One of the biggest and most impactful is opium. The opium poppy was first cultivated
Okay,
in
so
Southwest Asia,
I'm assuming,
and is one
like,
of the oldest
kinda
medicinal plants in recorded
related to,
history.
like,
The first mention of the opium poppy was found on
Opium?
Sumerian.
What is that? Twin.
Can you be a
The
travel advisor
ads,
without
twin.
putting your
Fuck
9 to 5?
me.
Actually,
God
yes.
damn.
We're Cora, the Modern Travel Agency, and we are empowered.
Yeah, skip that shit.
Clay tablets from about 3000 BC, near the very beginning of the Bronze Age. These tablets were found at the spiritual center of the Sumerians, located just south of Baghdad, and appeared to describe cultivation of the opium poppy,
Oh shit, my
including
bad,
the
though.
collection of the poppy juice in the early morning, as well as the production of opium itself. The Sumerians literally named opium gil, or happiness, a term that is still applied to opium in certain cultures today. Pretty crazy how long this stuff has been around and how influential it was. It likely is one of the most influential plants on this list. Besides opium, archaeologists also discovered well-preserved strands of human hair in a 3,000-year-old burial site in Spain, revealing trace amounts of 3 different alkaloid substances associated with altered states. Now, they don't exactly know what these psychoactive substances were used for, but it is speculated that they were used for recreational purposes. Another huge innovation and entry into the lifted realm was wine. Early wine has actually appeared in Egyptian pictographs, and by the early Bronze Age, the pictographs actually showed the production of wine and beer as well. And it didn't just display it as some crazy
wine
thing. They showed
It
it
was
like
a
it was
thing
business
now.
as usual. This stuff has been around. At the time, wine and other alcoholic beverages were not only used for pleasure, but they were also used for nutritional, medicinal, and religious purposes. Imagine if they
Traditional,
advertised wine that way
medicinal,
today. In
and
2600
religious. Y'all was
BC,
just
a
getting
Chinese
drunk.
emperor was actually
They was
studying
just
the
getting
impact of
drunk,
alcohol
folk.
on the public's health.
They was
He
just trying to
curious
get
why
drunk
people
as
did not
hell,
live as long
twin.
as they did before. And one of his people claimed, nowadays people use wine as a beverage, and they adopt reckless and unusual behavior. They devote all their attention to amusement of their mind, thus cutting themselves off from the joys of a long life. Their rising and retiring is without regularity. It's crazy how even 5,000 years ago, alcohol was having a negative impact on people's lives. And today, it's still popular as ever. At this
Yeah.
time, China was
Literally.
really on some other stuff. Because not only were they investigating the impacts of alcohol on the public, but they were also bringing to market some of the most influential medicines of all time. During the Bronze Age, Emperor Sheng Nong discovered a wide range of medicines almost 5,000 years ago.
Hey,
These included
Asia
the
was
first
bringing a
caffeine
lot of
tea
shit.
and ephedra, which
China
was used
is
to make
specifically,
Emperor
though,
Sheng Nong prescribed
was having
tea
a lot of
for
shit
malaria,
going on.
rheumatism, and poor memory. Caffeinated tea was also commonly an antidote to poisonous effects of other herbs. Ephedra was a natural stimulant that helped with asthma and was probably used for other things too. There's a reason that people still reference ancient Chinese medicine today. Even back in the Bronze Age, they were really on their stuff. Besides the discoveries of opium and amphetamines and wine, there was obviously a ton of development going on with tobacco, beer,
Right.
and psychedelics.
Right.
Tobacco was being traded and
The
cultivated.
magic
Beer
mushrooms, twin.
being improved, and shamans were using psychedelics as a gateway to the other side.
Is
Definitely
a
an interesting
gateway
time
to the other side. They was just
Similar
getting
to the Stone Age,
high
all of
and
these
drunk
substances had similar
back then,
purposes,
twin.
with
It
a
was
primary
just,
focus on
it was so
religious and
free.
medicinal
Like
benefits.
now,
Of course, with
you know what I'm
some
saying?
news
It's a
mixed in there as well.
stigma
The
with
Iron Age.
doing
At this point,
drugs and
human
shit.
development is ramping up
Although
to
it's more
full speed,
popularized,
and
and I feel like
honestly,
in
a lot of the
Gen
plants
Z
that we
and Gen
discussed are
Alpha,
still very much
it's
favored
still a
and very
stigma
much so
around
used,
like,
with the only real difference
you know what
being
I'm
the
saying?
scale of production and cultivation, as well as the
Not in our
documentation of
generation.
their
That's what I'm saying. Not
benefits
in
and
our
use cases. One
generations,
of
but
the
like
most commonly cited
millennials
plants
and
that
all
we
that
see in
shit,
the Iron Age
boomers,
is something
baby
you're likely
boomers,
familiar with. It may be
all
something
them
you're
niggas,
enjoying
you know what I'm
right
saying?
now, that being cannabis. During this time in history,
Mind you, them
cannabis
niggas was doing
widespread,
crack
and
and
use
shit.
cases
Let's talk about
vary
it.
drastically.
Like,
And
those
some
was
of
the
them
real
are kind of funny.
crackheads back.
In
You know what I'm
Mesopotamia,
saying?
several clay tablets were found in a library that contained references to cannabis. Most of these references indicated
Hey,
that
that
plants were
cannabis,
used for
boy,
either
that's all I
magical
do.
healing
Like, though.
purposes or to drive away
I don't even
evil
really
spirits or
partake in
even
anything
illnesses,
else for
which
real.
is interesting. On the contrary, over in China, the use of cannabis in medicine was very early in its development. But according to a famous early book on Chinese herbal medicine, known as the Divine Farmer's Matura Medicina, cannabis, if taken in excess, will produce
Yeah, we in the Iron
hallucinations,
Age.
literally seeing devils. On the other hand, moderate use over a long time has benefits. If taken over a long time, it will make one communicate with spirits and lightens one's body. Definitely an
Lightens
interesting
one's
interpretation of the
body.
plant, and I feel
Literally,
like they were
it's
smoking
definitely a
some strong
good
stuff. During this time, opium is
theory
also
of,
traded
or
along the Silk
interpretation,
Road.
literally,
No,
of what the
not
plant
that
is.
Silk Road, the actual Silk Road. And I think one of my favorite pieces of history from this time period is this. In the year 3 BC, there was a drinking contest in Greece that led to the death of 41 people. It is reported that a Greek
41
drinking contest revealed that
people?
41 contestants died of alcohol
Damn.
poisoning. Oddly enough, the winner did not die, at least not immediately. He actually took home prizes which included more wine, but he only lived for 4
More
days
wine is
before dying.
insane. Y'all gave him
Absolutely
more
insane that there was drinking
wine?
contests in
Y'all are
3 BC,
crazy.
and also the fact that so many people died at the same contest. That is wild. Near the end of the Iron Age, alcohol became the prominent psychoactive substance during the Roman Empire. Catholic Christianity became the state church of the Roman Empire. And since alcohol was often produced by abbeys and monasteries, it became the people's favorite. During this time, we weren't just limited to beer or wine. They also had introduced cider and mead as well. And it was also around 100 BCE when Rome had caught up with Greece in wine production and trade. One interesting artifact that was found in the Iron Age are stones carved into mini mushrooms by the Guatemalans. A
Hey,
set of
they
black
always
mushrooms
loved the
found that was
mushrooms.
believed
The
to be
shrooms was
associated with
always
the
a
nine
thing,
lords of the
folks.
and gods of the underworld. One study of these miniature sculptures suggests that these stones may have been used to grind up the mushrooms to prepare them for ceremonial consumption, which is cool, but it's also crazy that they also depicted 9 lords of an underworld on their mushroom carving. They must have been seeing some stuff. It was also
Hell
this
yeah,
time
they
when
was
Plato
fried
argued
as
that
fuck.
alcohol is a good test of someone's character. Plato argued that drinking with someone is the simplest, fastest, and most reliable way to test someone's character. This is because wine stimulates the emotion, including desires or pleasures of questionable moral worth. So if you want to get to know someone else's character, or even your own character, according to Plato, get drunk.
Get drunk.
In Asia, the Persian king advised his army to take advantage of their opponent's lack of experience of alcohol to defeat them. It literally used feast and alcohol as a military strategy. The idea was if the Persians were able to provide their enemies with large, generous portions of land, and
Get them
large
so
amounts of
drunk,
wine
get them
which
so
they had no
tipsy,
experience with, they would
they was gonna
become
use
so
that to their
infatuated with the
advantage.
feast and compelling feeling of this drink that they would be too
And,
distracted to even
yeah.
compete with the Persians in accomplishing.
Hell yeah, that was smart. I ain't even gonna lie. And that's when they strike, or that's when they attack. It's when they, it's so incoherent. You know what I'm saying? So out of it, so lit, so turned that they can't even, you know what I'm saying? Their mind is in a whole another universe. You know what I'm saying? It's in a whole nother state of mind.
It's an innovation.
Great things. Definitely an interesting strategy. Chewing coca leaves was still
It
popular
was.
over in the Iron Age, and they even discovered multiple ceramic figures depicting characters chewing coca leaves from 500 BC. So if you wanted to know how people got lifted in the Iron Age, the Greeks and Romans were literally turning into frat bros, drinking until they
Right,
died.
they was
People in
just,
Asia were
yeah,
smoking
they was
until they
just
saw the devil. And people in Guatemala were
drinking.
taking mushrooms until they saw the 9 lords of
So basically, shrooms, you know what I'm saying? Shrooms, alcohol, and weed.
I think the most normal thing to come out of this time period and their psychoactive substances is Plato's analysis on alcohol. It definitely was a funny time. The medieval era.
The
One of
medieval
the
era.
craziest substances we've talked about on this list is now about to be revealed. Technically, it was
What?
used at the end of the Iron Age, end of the beginning, and during the Middle Ages. But I wanted to add it here because this chemical is just so crazy and so insane. What I'm talking about, of course, is cacao, also known as chocolate. During this time, from roughly 250 AD
Chocolate?
to 900 AD, there there was an abundance of physical and symbolic traces of cacao and chocolate left behind, specifically by the Mayan people. This evidence includes both physical evidence
I'm
of cacao
confused,
residue
son.
left on vessels, basically little pottery bowls and stuff, as well as cacao being mentioned directly on scriptures. It was believed that cacao was used for social, religious, and, once again, ritualistic factors, which is interesting. It kind of reminds me of like that live-action Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie.
Right.
In the forest, the Oompa Loompas, like when he first makes connection with them, and like having this religious
Loompa,
connection to the
doobity
cacao
doo.
plant. It's basically
That my
like
shit. I ain't even
Maybe
gonna
that's what
lie. I
it's
fuck with that
inspired by. But
movie.
yeah, the Mayans were loving their chocolate. Around
Okay, so
900
chocolate.
AD, we
Alright,
also see the
bet.
first mention of coffee in print. This was found printed by a Persian physician in Iran. It was interesting how long it took us to
okay.
get from tea to coffee. But yeah, another crazy psychoactive substance. So far, they're just having the average morning meal. Nothing
Right.
too crazy so far. The travels of Marco Polo from roughly 1200 AD noted that rice wine was actually more popular than grape wine in China, saying, quote, "Most of the people in China drink wine of a kind that I shall not describe. It is a liquor which they brew of rice with a quantity of excellent spice in such a fashion that it
Hey,
makes
I've
better
never
drink
heard of
than
that.
any
That's-
other
that's
kind of
cool.
wine." I guess it kind of makes
Rice
sense
wine,
geographically why
okay.
they would prefer rice wine over a grape wine, but it's interesting that somebody who was used to grape wine actually preferred rice wine. He also made sure to note that, quote, "Rice wine makes one drunk sooner than any other wine."
Really?
China was really just
Wow.
growing up at this time. They were smoking until they saw devils. and they
Y'all
were
should try that.
drinking
Hey,
until
all the
they-
alcoholics out there, y'all should
Well,
try
maybe
some
not
rice
alcohol.
wine.
That
Y'all
was
should try to
the
make
Greeks
that
were
and see if that
drinking
gets you more lit.
China was probably close.
Yeah,
It was around
you
this
know
time
what I'm saying,
we also
regular.
started to see the prohibition of certain substances, specifically cannabis.
All my
in the
niggas that like to
Middle
drink
East.
wine and shit.
Gambling at this time were explicitly prohibited in the Quran, but there was no specific text that gave guidance on hashish or cannabis. The general legal attitude was that cannabis should be banned, despite the fact that it was widely used among Muslim populations.
Damn, they
Governments
banned the
tried to
weed.
take a drastic step against it, but with little success. From 1223 to 1277, there was a prohibition on wine and cannabis that involved the death penalty for those who used it.
Damn, fo, you was dying if you drunk weed. Drunk weed. Fuck. You was dying if you drunk alcohol and smoked some damn weed, man. You was dying. They was chopping off heads. They was decapitating
Caused
niggas.
the killing and maiming of
Damn,
So,
shorty, that's
wine,
crazy.
wine and weed. One thing that they
That's
were
Bodine,
ramping up
folks.
production of was
Damn.
coffee. During this time, the
But
first
y'all was
coffee
drinking
trees
coffee,
were
though. Y'all was
cultivated
some
on the
coffee
Arabian
drinking
Peninsula.
ass
And at
niggas,
first,
though.
coffee was used for medicinal
Over
and
drinking
religious
coffee,
purposes,
but
like many
niggas was
chemicals
dying
at
if
this
they
time.
drunk
Funnily enough, the way that this was
alcohol
used
and
for
smoke a
religious
little,
purposes
you know,
was
smoke a
claimed
little
that it
drink,
used
smoke a
to
little
help people
wood.
stay awake during
Smoke a
the
little
long
wood,
religious
damn motherfucker
ceremonies,
can't smoke a
which
little
to me is
wood.
hilarious because
Ain't
it's
smoke a
like,
little
here,
wood.
kids, take
No,
this,
let me
this is
stop
going to be
playing.
long and boring. But hey, if it works, it works. Honestly, medieval times seems like a pretty chill time, with a lot of cool innovations like chocolate and coffee, and also some interesting attempts at prohibition. I think it's safe to say that at this time, the most common substance of choice was definitely alcohol, as its recreational use was ramped up significantly.
Yeah, rice
I think
wine
one
is
interesting
cold,
example
though.
that
Rice
shows
wine
this
is
was
wild. I
pretty
ain't
is
never
the
heard
fact
of
that
that.
They used distilled spirits as a prescribed medicine during the Black Death. During the mid-1300s, distilled spirits were prescribed by doctors during the Black Plague, with the thought
Damn,
that
really?
it would help them fight off the disease internally. Ironically, this led to a lot of overconsumption of alcohol because people wanted to be extremely cautious, which
Right.
is kind of ironic and hilarious to think.
I know y'all they was
Chugging
over
essentially
drunk
medieval
because
vodka
like
to
wait,
help protect them
the
from
doctor's
the
telling y'all, oh yeah,
disease.
drink some
I guess at that point, if
drink.
you're
Hey,
gonna go out, at least
go
go
drink a
out.
little
Medieval
whiskey. It'll make you
times,
it'll make you feel
the early
better.
modern era.
It'll
The
ease
early
the
modern
it'll
era
ease
is
the
an extremely
dying.
exciting time for
No,
people
won't, Tony.
enlightening
You just gonna be
themselves,
drunk as hell and
specifically because
dead.
there
You gonna be
is
drunk and
so much
dead.
recorded evidence of different use cases,
Dead and
prohibitions,
drunk.
legalizations, declarations, and other recorded events associated with different psychoactive chemicals. And spoiler alert, there's not a ton of new introductions. However, the use cases of the chemicals and plants that we've described so far have definitely taken a change and now have adapted some interesting relationships with different cultures. For starters, in 1475 AD in Turkey, the world's first coffee shop was opened, which is
Okay,
really cool.
that's
because
raw.
coffee shops have been around for so long.
Yeah,
Over in Europe,
that
the
is
introduction of
insane.
press
That's
has allowed
cool.
a broader distribution of information about alcohol, which is a huge win for safety. For a short period of time, coffee was actually banned in Mecca, as it was claimed to be an intoxicant, and the governor of Mecca actually shut down all of the coffee houses, although shortly after his superior overruled him and opened them back up. Excitedly, cacao had made its way over
naturally.
to Europe. First at Spain and then the rest of Europe. The first official voyage of cacao got delivered from modern-day Mexico to modern-day Spain in 1585, and at the time, cacao was served as a drink. Also at this time, smoking was introduced to the Europeans from indigenous Americans.
Damn, the
Spanish
Europeans
friars
just
who
started
created
smoking by this
believed that
time?
Tobacco was the devil's weed, and the traditional indigenous smoking of it was sinful. However, French and English voyagers took note of the practice of smoking tobacco and brought the idea back home to Europe, where it quickly spread across Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia.
Damn, that one French nigga, like,
Shortly after the
low-key
popularization of
spread it.
tobacco,
Hey,
once again,
start
during
smoking
the
that
plague,
shit,
physicians
fool.
were
I
recommending
swear to
tobacco as a
God.
disinfectant. And
It
even
had
stated that
your
people who
ass
smoked tobacco
floating,
regularly had
twin.
lower rates of infection.
And they all just started doing it, you feel me?
VIII declared coffee as a
I think they was
Christian
smoking
drink,
tobacco, never
specifically because
mind.
most people associated
Never
it
mind,
with
I can't
Islamic
speak for
culture
that. I don't
because it was
smoke.
brought
I
to
don't
Europe
know.
by
I don't
traders
really
from
know
the Middle
about
East.
smoking
It stated
tobacco.
that Pope Clement
I
tried
don't
coffee for
do
the first
that.
time and then decreed
I
it
know
as a
about some
Christian
weed.
drink, which is kind of hilarious. Could you imagine
son.
being a trader from the Middle East, bringing a gift to the Pope, sharing your culture with him, watching him try it for the first time and seeing the delight on his face, only for him to instantly decree, yes, this is great. This is a Christian drink. Thank you. Thank you so much for this Christian drink. And they're like, actually, we've been, you know what, sure. Crazy, but, you know, times were different. During this time, prohibitions are popping up and down everywhere, and coffee houses are exploding. Not literally, just they're getting popular. Maybe a few exploded, I don't know. In 1663, English coffee houses were actually required to be licensed. And in 1666,
Damn, y'all was
the first
licensing coffee
house
houses
opened up in
and shit?
Boston. And believe it or not, it wasn't a Starbucks.
I get
During
that,
the
though.
30-year War,
Coffee
Dutch
is the most
soldiers kept
used
bottles
drug
of what was known
besides
as Dutch
nicotine,
courage
right?
on their
So-
belt, which was actually a flask of gin. During these battles, the British actually took note and began doing the same thing as well. Which I don't blame them. If I was in a war that was 30 years long, I think I'd be sipping a little bit too.
Hell yeah, I ain't even gonna lie. I'd definitely be carrying me a
Although
bottle
Japan, it
too.
was really
Shit, I have me a whole fucking look, man. I had me the
So
biggest
yeah,
bottle
during the early modern
fucking.
era, the legendary combo of coffee and cigarettes was booming, essentially
I don't even
all
know.
over the world. And although some
I don't
people
even
wanted
drink.
to,
I couldn't
there
even
was
tell
really
you.
no
I
way to
couldn't
go
even tell
about
you,
it, as the
twin. I
trend
don't
was
even know.
booming, and
I
people
don't
wanted
drink.
their caffeine and nicotine.
I keep cut on me. If cuts was around back then, I swear to God, I have and I was in the war. I had me a 4-pack every fucking day. Say I
It's so
won't.
interesting to see the first discovery of a plant and then worldwide stores selling a product made from this plant pop up in a matter of 100 years. That's just, to me, so cool to see. Humans are honestly awesome, and that's why I love these time period videos. But we're still not done yet. The modern era. One of the
Okay,
first
the
and most
modern
significant events
era.
that took place was the London gin craze. The English took their interest in Dutch courage a little bit too far, because now, after the king and parliament encouraged the production of gin to increase the price of grain and provide tax revenue, this resulted in the price of gin dropping dramatically, which exponentially boosted the consumption, particularly among the poor.
Right.
Now that
I ain't
the
even
gin
gonna
is
lie.
so cheap,
They was probably
any regular person
drunk
could
as
afford to
shit.
maintain a solid buzz 24/7, and this was causing havoc among the British people. I think there was a lot of reasons to drink during the early 1700s, especially in London. Religious dissent, rebellion, corrupt politicians, displaced people, all factors that were contributing to an unstable society.
Hell
People were
yeah.
packed in tight, small, dirty rooms, living
That
in
sound like
working
modern
conditions
day,
sucked.
to
Most
be
people were poor,
honest.
so if there was any sort of joy or escape that you could afford, why wouldn't you? The upper class
Sound like
blamed the
modern
production of
day,
gin for
to
all of
be
the
honest.
issues that British society was having, but realistically, the consumption of gin was only because of how low the quality of life was at this time. The government did eventually begin to control the gin craze through a series of what was known as gin acts. That alone is a pretty crazy start to the modern era. In 1832, a French chemist was the first person to isolate codeine, which is a alkaloid of the naturally occurring opium that at this point has been used for hundreds of years.
Codeine?
Codeine is still widely used today, and in modern times is synthesized from morphine through a chemical process. Moving over to China, Emperor Yang Cheng prohibited the sale of opium for smoking. It was still legal to use medicinally, but if you were using it recreationally, you were killed.
Damn, y'all was just murking niggas off for using shit, fool.
Officials were, for the most part,
Damn, y'all was,
the
man, y'all was
supply chain
popping,
was
man,
stronger
they was
than
just
the
knocking them
government
niggas
control.
off,
A separate
twin.
French chemist also discovered morphine, which, like codeine, comes from the opium plant and is still used heavily to this day.
Right, yeah,
In
morphine
the early
is that, but that's a
1800s, it was
medicinal,
prescribed
that's a
to physicians
medicinal
often for
drug, you know what
But by
I'm
the
saying?
1870s, physicians began to express concerns because of the morphine habit that it was causing, which is, of course, a pretty severe addiction. In 1869, the Prohibition Party was established in the United States of America, which was essentially looking to achieve widespread social reform about alcohol, and wanted to have legislation that would prohibit the sale and manufacturing of alcohol in the U.S. And seemingly
Right.
one by one, countries began to prohibit different substances for different reasons. It's also at this time that we see a lot of interesting companies pop up. For example, Folgers Coffee Company was founded in 1850.
Really?
Brewing Company was founded in 1855. Lipton Tea was established in 1890.
Damn.
Coca-Cola was invented in 1886.
Hey,
Besides
did y'all know that
companies
Coke was actually
we see
putting
a
Coke
lot
in
of drugs
Coca-Cola?
popping up. We saw
Like, it was like,
methamphetamines being introduced. We
bitch,
saw
pause the video. It was like a dash of Coke in Coke. It was only like a dash, but it was, yeah, and they had to stop doing that. Amphetamines, hey, this is when shit get LSD, this is when shit get, this is when them drugs coming around, this is when shit starts to get twisted.
Synthesized in the late 1930s. We saw oxycodone first synthesized in the 1910s. And in the 1940s, people in Japan got their first taste of meth. I wonder where they got it from.
Of meth?
What were Japan and Germany up to in the
Hey, and once meth hit, and crack and coke and fent, oh yeah, that's, and this is where we're at now.
For the most part, have been around for hundreds and thousands of years.
Yeah, that's insane though. That's insane that all of this shit, you know what I'm saying?
Regarding to temperance and regulation.
That's insane that all of this shit, you know what I'm saying, date back like so far back. You know what I'm saying? Something like it dates back really far back. Like it really do. So that shit is insane. I ain't even gonna lie. Okay, I don't know what's going on. But hey, twin, if y'all enjoyed the video, fool, you already know what the fuck to do, man. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on posts in case if y'all boys are new, man. Tune in on me, Twinskies. Twinskies? Yeah, I gotta stop smoking weed, fool. I be saying some dumb shit when I'm high. I'm gonna catch y'all boys in the next one, fool. I'm out, nigga. Yo.